So chapter 5 deals with tissues. Today we'll mostly do epithelial tissues, but a little bit of review about what tissues actually are. Last chapter, in our little progression, what built tissues? Cells, a group of cells. So similar cells are arranged into tissues that have specific functions. So we're going to look at squamous cells. They're flat. Why are they flat? How does that help their job? Columnar cells. Why does their shape? What does it help do? So cells of different tissues are shaped or structured differently. And the reason that they're structured differently is because of their jobs, whatever their function is. Four main types that we'll look at. Today we'll look at epithelial tissue, protective coverings, functions in secretion and absorption. When I say epithelials, what do you think of? Where do they collect epithelials? Epidermis. Skin. I think of like forensic shows. They talk about epithelials. Usually it's some type of skin cells. Protective covering, your skin would be an example. But also like the coverings on your organs are going to be epithelial cells. Connective tissues, bind structures, that's where they get connect from. They're going to connect things together. Cartilage is a huge example of connective tissue. And then we'll specifically look at muscular tissue and nervous tissue because they each have their own specific job. So this table's in your book. Epithelials, protection, secretion, body surface, organs. They lack blood vessels. If you just sit and pick at your skin, does it bleed? Not until when? Until you get under, until you get deep enough. So epithelial cells lack blood vessels. They divide very easily. Connective tissue, bind and support, they're found all over. They have to have a good blood supply. So they are full of blood vessels. Muscular is for movement, and obviously those tissues are going to build your actual muscles. Nervous mostly deals with impulses and nerves. So they're going to communicate with each other. So, epithelial tissue, our main focus for today. Epithelial is found throughout the body. It covers organs. It lines cavities. It lines the inside of organs. So basically, anything that has a covering is most likely going to have epithelial tissue. They're anchored to a basement membrane, which you'll see basement means bottom. So the basement membrane of cells are going to be at the bottom of it. They're tightly packed. There's not much material. Intercellular means in between cells. So in between the cells, you're not going to find much. They generally lack blood vessels and they divide very easily. Skin cells. I'm sure you've heard the dust in your house mostly comes from what?
Skin.
Dead skin. A lot of it comes from dead skin, small pieces of hair, things like that. You lose thousands of skin cells daily. So they have to continually be replaced. Epithelial tissues always has a free surface, which means like an outside surface. So if I'm looking at my skin, the free surface is on the outside. The basement's going to be the underneath or the bottom part of it. So there'll always be a free surface and there'll always be a basement. Function, protect, secrete. I'm going to stick with skin for now. What does your skin secrete? Oils. And when you're hot? Sweat. Absorption, excretion, secretion, and excretion for right now I'm kind of putting together. Classified by their shape and the number of layers. So how they're grouped. They are grouped by shapes Squamous means flat. You're squatty, you're flat, squamous. Cuboidal, it's shaped cube-like. Columnar, it's shaped like a column. It's going to be a longer or elongated cell. Layers, simple means there's one layer. Stratified means there's more than one layer. So if I have something called stratified squamous, what can you tell me about that?
It's flat and has more than one layer.
It's flat and it has more than one layer. So those are going to tell you about the tissues. Free surfaces can be modified. Some will have cilia or microvilli, little hair-like structures, especially if it's going to move something. It will often have little cilia or hair-like structures to help move. And those are usually found on the free side, on the outside part. So, first one, simple squamous. Simple means one layer. Squamous means flat. So it's made up of a single layer of thin, flat cells. Because it's suited for diffusion, single layer, it's easy to get through. So simple squamous is suited for diffusion, exchange of gases. It's very common in your lungs. So oxygen and carbon dioxide can diffuse. Blood and lymph vessels, so that they're getting water, oxygen, carbon dioxide, wastes can diffuse back and forth, as well as some of your body cavities. So simple squamous, single layer, flat, stuff goes through it very easily. Diffusion is very common. And here is just a picture of it. So here, if I'm looking at it, this is, the purple is connective tissue underneath. This yellow layer is your actual epithelials. So here's a cell, it's a single layer, they're all flat and squatty looking. The outside surface is here. The basement is at the bottom, where it's going to attach to some type of connective tissue. And all these blue spots are the nucleus. Simple cuboidal, single cell, cube-shaped, nucleus is in the middle. Cuboidal deals more with secretion and absorbing of things. So kidneys is the most common one that you're going to find cuboidal cells. So kidneys, there is a lot of absorption and secretion. Your kidneys filter things. So cuboidal, very common there. Secretion in some of your glands and the ovaries. It also covers the ovaries. The picture that we'll look at most likely will come from your kidneys. So here, notice they're not so flat. They kind of have a square or cube shape. The top is the free surface, the bottom is the basement, and there's one layer, and this is what it actually looks like taken out of your kidneys. Notice here, this is the free surface, because that's where the opening is at. Inside your body, the free surface is going to be where a cavity is at. The basement is going to attach to some type of tissue that's found underneath. Simple columnar, single column shaped, one row of long cells. Usually the nuclei are towards the bottom of these cells. Non-ciliated means no little hairs. The uterus, the stomach, the intestines, it's used for protection. Secretion, columnar is going to secrete digestive juices to help in digestion. Ciliated, with the little hairs, uterine tubes to help move the egg along. The cilia are going to flow. So uterine tube moves the egg towards the uterus. In the intestines, some of the columnar epithelial have little microvilli. which are actually smaller than cilia, they increase the surface area. So their job, your intestines have to absorb all the nutrients. Those microvilli make little like wedges and gaps and makes more surface area so that it absorbs nutrients much easier. Mucus secreting cells are called goblet cells, and they're often found in columnar cells. And these are very common in your digestive system to produce mucus to protect the lining of it. Like your stomach has hydrochloric acid in it. So these goblet cells produce mucus that protect the lining on the inside of your stomach. Leah.
Makes me think of Harry Potter and the goblins and all the mucus that comes out of the things. That's how I probably.
Goblins mucus, goblets mucus, that would be a way to remember it. So columnar, long and skinny. Your nuclei are going to be at the bottom, the basement. Here's those little extensions of microvilli that can expand and increase the surface area. And then here, this would be a goblet cell, this one here, and this would be the mucus that it's going to secrete and release to the outside. So this would be a goblet cell, this would be a goblet cell because they're going to release mucus. Pseudo-stratified columnar epithelial.
That sounds scary.
Okay, columnar means
Columns.
tall and skinny. Stratified means layers, many layers. Pseudo means false. Pseudo means false. So these cells appear layered, but they're not really. It's like a false layered. They're the odd ones. They're kind of scattered a little bit. They might have cilia. They might be a goblet cell. These are very common in your respiratory tubes. So pseudostratified columnar, very common in respiratory. It might move things. Notice the cilia, these are longer hairs than your microvilli. This would be a goblet cell. But notice how they're just funny shaped. So it kind of looks like there's layers of things, but really I have a normal cell, and then I kind of have the skinny cell. This is very skinny at the bottom. This is just doesn't even go to the top. So pseudo, it's falsely layered. Really I have one cell, one cell, one cell, one cell, but if you look at it, it might appear to be layered. Stratified squamous, this is pretty common. Flattened cells, very important for protecting. So simple diffusion stuff went through it. Stratified, thick layers, it's going to be very important for protection. So the shape of the top layer is used to name it. So the top layer is squamous, it's flat. It makes up the outer layer of your skin. So here's your epithelials that you hear about on CSI and things like that. It lines the mouth. Your mouth needs to be protected very well. The throat, the vagina, and the anal canal. Anything basically that leads to the outside of your body, an opening to the outside, is going to have stratified squamous cells because they are the best at protecting. So in the skin, keratinization, this is very important. It produces a dry, waterproof protective layer. It doesn't occur on this is mostly just for your skin. So